welcome to day 2 of the Jamaica Animation Nation Network. I'm your host, Regine Bennett, and we're at the last day of the animation weekend. Day 1 was a good one. We were off to a great start, and so we hope that day 2 is nothing less, right? So, as you know, we previously watched the TAVIA Awards for 2024, and that was a collab between JANN and Animation Fest, where they hosted a competition for students at tertiary and vocational institutions. The categories were Best Animation, Best Voice Acting, Best Story, People's Choice Awards, and Best Character Design. UTech won all categories. The top animation being I Am Bot. Sounds exciting, right? So that was the display, and I certainly enjoyed them. I hope they too. We'll be hearing from some of the panelists who were creators of those displays as well. Just to note that membership fees are due starting January 2025. That will be 2,500 Jamaican dollars per year, students, and between 3,000 Jamaican dollars and 5,000 Jamaican dollars per year for freelancers and educators. So that's just a point to note, right? Before we get into the mix of things, we would love to invite the presence of the Lord here with us. I know that we're not physical, we're virtual, we still want to keep the vibe and the energy there. But in the midst of all that, let's have a prayer from the president of JANN, Mr. Jonathan Roberts.
Afternoon, everybody, and welcome back again. So, before I go into the prayer, I do have one second. Start the video. Hello, everyone. Okay, so before I go into the prayer, just a little conversation, and then we can get things going. And I'm going to make sure that we stay in our time schedule and everything. Now, as we are in our animation weekend, and just some insights into me and how I am looking at the industry and how we're going to move forward. So currently, I mostly work within the restaurant industry, where I do restaurant management, and how I look at animation, because a lot of people will know me by my saying I'm not an artist. I'm not looking at it at the art to be created, but the infrastructure that the artists need to thrive to be able to create that art. So where are they going to be located? What equipment they're going to use? How will they be secured? How are they going to get fed? How are they going to get paid? What type of health insurance? What type of all of those different things? And this is new, uncharted territory. So we have a lot of different industries in Jamaica that has been going on for years. And to this day, they still don't figure that out. And there are certain parts of the culture where we do things last minute, we do things ourselves. Like, there are just certain things that we as Jamaicans have to overcome to be able to, get business going. And we as artists, we are not exempt from those things. So there are some things that are native to art that are problems, and there are things that are native to Jamaica that are problems. And when you add both of those things together, you get where we are. Now, the good thing is, in 2024, content is king. And where static images, it's slowly and surely phasing out, where persons are just doing static content. More persons want to see animation. More persons want to see those animated work. And not just animated work, they want to see different stories from the whitewash stories. Like, they want to see different stories from different culture. They want to see stories from different ethnicities. And so there is a demand for our type of content. The Jamaican stories, because Jamaica name good a yard and abroad, so we're not going at that. But the thing is, we still don't have the infrastructure in place that we need to get there. And it might look like nothing is happening. It's a slow process. But as we mentioned yesterday, next year, JANN is going to be 10 years. It's been an uphill climb the last 10 years. And just imagine what things will look like in 10 years to come. So as we go through the event today, We want to pay attention to the persons who are here, who are speaking, who are sharing, who are imparting. We want to listen to the persons who they are out in the field, they're doing the work, they're putting out the content. And we want everybody to know that we all have a part to play in the industry moving forward. So you might be the creative who is doing the artwork. You might be the audience who is watching and critiquing. You might be somebody who is something part. But JANN, the Jamaican Animation Nation Network, we are the community. And if we don't do it, it not gonna get done. So as we keep that in mind, and as we understand that it really is up to us, or is it not gonna happen, let us pray and ask our Father to guide us for this event and all that is to come. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. And for all who's there, I don't know your relationship with God, but it's good to have that spirituality because the problems will come. And when those hard times come, you need something to fall back on. So thank you all for being here, and I hope you enjoyed the weekend.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Roberts, indeed. And on that note, it's Sunday, so happy Sunday, everyone. Stay blessed, be blessed, as we seek to have a great session today. Now, Mrs. Shivers White, I see where next we have a word from JIPO, and then following we'll have the word from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So I'm just seeking your guidance here if we do have them to speak now, or we should just go right into panel one.
I see Lilyclaire Bellamy. She's in the session, so she'll be
I'm
able
here.
to, yes.
All right, so Ms. Lilyclaire Bellamy, welcome as we expect a word from JIPO, Jamaica Intellectual Property Office.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Bennett. It's great to see you, and I really appreciate the invitation to share with you. I'm anxious to have a conversation with Mr. Roberts after, but that's not for today. I am, as you mentioned, the Executive Director of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. We are an agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. It was wonderful watching all of the animation before. The bot wasn't my favorite one, but that's another matter. But what I wanted to say is the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, as our name says, intellectual property. Every single animation that we just watched is an example of intellectual property. The most obvious aspect of intellectual property that comes to mind is copyright and related rights. And I'm going to encourage each of you as animators to take the time to either call the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, 876-946-1300, or to visit our website, which is under construction now. It will soon be up and running, but I am encouraging all of you. I don't remember seeing the copyright symbol on any of the presentations that were done, but perhaps I overlooked it. But it's important as a creator to ensure that you protect your work. And part of the protection is being able to have evidence to show that it is your work. To facilitate this, the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office introduced some time ago a voluntary copyright registration system. With that voluntary copyright registration system, you are able to visit JIPO and deposit a copy of your work. The importance of depositing a copy of your work is that should there be an infringement of your work, you would have in your possession a certificate, and that certificate would show the year that you created your work, and you deposited a full copy of your work with us. So all the information relating to your work would be there. So in the event that somebody used your work without your permission, it's important for you to be able to enforce your intellectual property right. So that means having the evidence to show that you were the creator of the work. And that's what JIPO does for you. We allow you to register your work, well, to give a copy of your work to us, because your work is registered once it is in a tangible format. So once you've done the storyboard, the copyright comes into existence for that storyboard. Once you have presented it in the animated format, the copyright comes into existence for that. And there are a whole series of copyright related in that animation. So what I want you to take away from this brief intervention is that your copyright is automatic, but you need to have evidence to prove the date you created the work and the fact that the work is yours. So I would encourage all of you to telephone our office. You can speak to somebody who will give you the information, or you can come and visit our office. The other thing I would also encourage you to do is, once you have published your work, to join the respective collective management organization. That's a whole other story. But joining a collective management organization, when your work is used outside of Jamaica and in Jamaica, you're able to earn from your work. But you need to be a member of a collective management organization so that they can act on your behalf, and they would collect the money and remit that money to you. So this is just a teaser. I want you to come to our office, or to telephone, or to send an email, and we will speak to you, or we will write to you to give you more information. But thanks so much for inviting me this afternoon to share with you. I don't know if there are any questions, because I still have a few more minutes in my time slot. So if there are any questions, I would be willing to take them. Thank you so much.
So I have a quick question, if I
Who is
can go
that
ahead.
speaking? Yes,
So that's
Mr.
Jonathan
Roberts.
Roberts. All right. So for most persons who don't want to go through the official process of registering the IP, what if I have like a poor man's copyright in place, where I sent an email with the work itself and I have that kind of paper trail to show that I am the producer of the work from beforehand? Do I have any standing in the court system to say if anybody...
No, Mr. Roberts, because if you email it to you, that's not the evidence. You have to use the old-fashioned way. You have to send a copy of your work to yourself by registered mail. That's what the poor man's copyright is. It has to be by registered mail, because the timestamp on the envelope is a part of the evidence. The email doesn't work, which is why, as you mentioned, not everybody, and remember, your copyright is automatic. What the poor man's copyright is doing is providing you with evidence, in the same way that the voluntary registration system at JIPO, the nomenclature is off, because basically what you're doing is you're providing yourself with evidence. JIPO, we will give you a certificate, right? So that certificate, let's say X person, you produced an animation. You did it, you created it. And the next thing you know, you shared it with some friends, and you thought they were your friends, and one of them has reproduced your work and they have used that work. They're earning from it. A simple thing is, if you have that certificate from JIPO, you can make a copy of it, or you can ask us to provide you with a certified copy, and you send to that person and say, please cease and desist from utilizing my animation, because I did not give you permission. Because remember, once you've created the work, the copyright automatically comes into existence without you doing anything. You don't have to register copyright. Copyright is automatic once it's in a tangible format. What the voluntary registration and the poor man's copyright is doing is providing you with evidence. So that is evidence for you to say, on the 2nd day of January in the year 2001, I created this work. Okay, so it is that evidence that you will be able to present in an arbitration or in a court of law to say, you know, I created this work from 2021. This person created the work in 2024. They used my work without my permission. You can seek damages from them. You can seek remedies, different form of remedies. The remedy you want could be as simple as the attribution to say, it's my work. Or you could say, no, I want you to pay me for it. Or you could say, I don't want my work to be broadcast on the channel that you're broadcasting it. So please cease and desist. So, but the important thing to remember is copyright is automatic. The poor man's copyright, when you send it back to yourself by registered mail, it's for the purposes of evidence. And in the same way, when you use the system at JIPO, we give you that certificate. That is for you to have that, to say to somebody easily, please stop using my work. Here's the certificate to show that on the 20th day of January, I visited JIPO. I got this certificate, which speaks to the fact that I had created my work in 2020, or I had created my work before the date, obviously, of coming into JIPO. That's the importance of it. I hope that made it clear. If not, I'm willing to come and do a presentation where we can flesh it out with you more.
Okay, it does clear up a lot for me. And I don't know if anybody has a next question, but you did say something and I'm just very curious. So let's just say I am working with friends. I am trusting. I did share with them something that I did without going through those proper channels, and they beat me to the punch with copyrighting it. Is there any way I can get back ownership of it after?
No, Mr. Roberts, your copyright is automatic. Remember, all they're doing is they're going to come to JIPO now, and they're going to say that they created the work. So then it becomes, they created the work on, okay, you created the work on January the 1st. They come to JIPO and they get a certificate. They say to us, you know, I created this work on January the 3rd, okay? Or they could also say that they created it on January the 1st. No, what's gonna happen is the court would have to determine who they believe. Because remember, you know, in every case before the court, it is the evidence. So you could have done something and there's no evidence to prove that you did it. You're a free man. But if there's evidence against somebody, then they will serve the time. So the thing is, the copyright is automatic. Once you've created it, I would encourage everybody to put the letter C with a circle around it and the date that you created it. Can I notice to the world that you, Jonathan Roberts, on November the 21st, created this work, okay? And you have it out there with that copyright symbol on it. Because remember, the copyright is automatic. In the absence of you doing anything, your copyright is automatic. The poor man's copyright and the voluntary registration system at JIPO are just for the purposes of evidence. They're not for the purposes of registration. But if your friend has taken your work without your permission, then both of you are going to have to be able to show enough evidence for the arbitrator or the person who is hearing the matter to believe whose story is more valid. That's what it comes down to. So part of how you might be able to prove is that you would know what were your thoughts that made you come up with the animation. Whereas a person, unless you shared everything with them, and I would encourage you as creatives not to share with your friends, because it's only the people who you have shared with who are able to take your work without your permission, all right? So keep it close to your chest. Don't share it with anybody. I don't know if that helps, Mr. Roberts.
It did clear it up for me. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you as well, Ms. Bellamy, for those insights. I'm sure that the creatives on this meet can definitely appreciate it, and I myself do appreciate it as well. I'm not an animator, but I'm in the creative field, so some
Good.
points you made are definitely noteworthy. We appreciate it. And it's of course important to have your work copyrighted because it's such a bad feeling and actually dishonoring to see someone using your work when you know that you're the one that actually created it. And then especially if it's blasting off and you're not there to get the rightful honor. Yes. So thank you once again.
You're most welcome. My pleasure. Okay, then. Bye, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
It was my
care.
pleasure.
Indeed. All right, so I'm sure that we all learned a lot. If you did, let me see some emojis. Let me see some notes in the chat to say, yes, I'm learning, I'm following, you're here. Because we're virtual, but we're still present. So let's be interactive, let's be engaging. I still see the chat empty. Nobody's gonna say anything in the chat. Are you following? Are you here? Any emojis? You're okay, good, good. Good stuff, good stuff. All right. Just another confirmation again, Mr. Shevers White. Are we moving on to the first panel now, or?
I'm not seeing anyone from Jamaica Stock Exchange. Is there anyone in the session representing Jamaica Stock Exchange? All right. I guess that answers our question, Regine.
Yes. All righty. So now let's hear from the creators, the animators. This first panel for day 2 will be under Where Are We Now, right? So yesterday, day 1, we would have heard about how to network in a connected world, and also we learned about more from the Johnny Sad Boy animation. They had a little reunion, and now we're trying to understand where are we now. We got a bit of a blast to the past. Now we want to see where we are at present. So we'll be hearing from Shanae Herman, who directed Doggy Secret. Shanae, how are you? Could you please unmute and greet us and let us know who else is here from your team? Hi Shanae, you're still muted. I wonder if she stepped away. Anyone here from Shanae Herman's team? No? All right, let's just give them a moment. We also will be joined by Nicolai Gowdy, who directed Death by Breath, and also Anika Hornsby, who directed A Fight to Flight. Are you all here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes.
I'm here. Awesome, awesome stuff. So we have Nicolai, we have Shanae, and is Anika here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, welcome. How are you guys? How are you feeling to be a part of Animation Weekend?
It's a good feeling.
Are any of you willing to turn on your camera? Or you're unable to do so? Thank you so much, Shani. Thank you so much, Nikolai. Anika? Yes. Hi. Nice to virtually meet you all. Congratulations on all the work that you're doing. I'm so excited to learn more about you and the animation that you directed, and more so about how you and your team brought the vision to light, right? So let's start with Shanae. Doggy Secret. I for sure wanted to know what inspired that name. I saw your animation and I think it definitely captured it, but what inspired that name to say yes. Doggy Secret is the title we're working with. And also share with me a bit more into the conceptualization of this animation. Tane, you're still muted.
Oh, sorry, I'm having some internet issues due to rain where I am.
Oh,
So
understand.
I just rejoined a while ago. I didn't hear the question.
All right, so I'm asking Doggy Secret, tell me what inspired that title and share with me a bit more about the conceptualization of your animation.
Okay, well, Doggy Secret, the title was inspired because it's about a dog named Trot, and he was trying to keep a secret of having a family from his owner Lucy. So that's where the title came from. the conceptualization, it wasn't anything really serious. I just wanted a quirky, lighthearted story to entertain persons. So that's how I came up with the idea.
And how did you bring together your team, those who collaborated with you in making this animation possible? I see that you're frozen. I'm wondering if your Wi-Fi dropped out. Shani, are you hearing me? All right, let's just give her. Are you hearing me, Shani?
I'm
Shani,
hearing you now.
I recommend turning off your video.
Okay.
All right, are you hearing me?
Yes, I am.
All right, so yes, share with me how you got together your team, because I saw that it was a collaborative effort. I'm not sure if any of your other teammates are here on this meet with you, but share with me the background of getting your team together.
Well, I'm happy to say that I'm surrounded by talented people. So I chose those persons who I knew would be out,
she chipped out.
and they were,
Yes, you can go ahead. You just chipped out a bit.
oh, sorry. Yes, so I chose persons who I worked well with, persons who were talented and knew what they were about. They're not here right now, but they are wonderful people. They go by the names of Tony and Taylor, Ronaldo Graham, Tahira Daly, and Malik Dakers Byfield. I also got some assistance from Yakini McLeod and Nikolai Gaudi, who is here with us. So it was a great experience working with them, and I'm truly grateful.
Awesome stuff. Now, before I go over to Nikolai and Anita, just share with me some of the technologies that you use to create this animation. Such beautiful colors. I love it. Just to put that out there, I love it. So just share with us the technologies that you use, or the different steps or parts that were truly critical to making this animation possible.
Well, in terms of technologies, the softwares that we use were Krita, that was the primary software. We also used, well, there's one other software by Adobe that Ronaldo used. It's called Fresco, and he used that pretty well. There's also Clip Studio Paint, which I think would have been the best animation, but because Krita is more known among us, we went along with that. Also, the steps that came into play when we were working on the short film, there were a bit of technicalities, but for the most part, the most important thing was time management. So we had to set our deadlines and milestones first and foremost in order to make sure that we got our each step done on time, so that we didn't, go over the deadlines and things like that. The main thing in terms of animation would have been blocking out the whole thing, in terms of when we're actually doing the final thing. So the most important parts, the key parts, we did those first to make sure that the whole story, the whole film was blocked out first, and then we went through and did like the in-betweens and things like that. But before all of that, there are things that come into play, such as the animatic, which is basically a moving storyboard. So it serves the purpose of informing us what the final animation is going to look like. Things like that. And the sound design and everything, the voice acting, background music, things like that were also important.
Oh, lovely. It sounds like a whole production. I just love to hear the background of how things came to life. Sounds good. Congrats to you and your team, Shani. Now let's
Thank you
hear.
so much.
You're welcome. Let's hear from Nikolai and Anita. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi, I'm great.
Awesome. Anita, are you here with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. For the two of you, Nikolai, Death by Breath, Anita, A Fight to Flight. Hearing those titles, you're just thinking, first off, Death by Breath, Nikolai. We know that even in real life situations, persons could use that to say, oh my gosh, breath. And just it being something that's off if it doesn't really smell that well. And for you to say this by breath, it's so funny to me. So could you share with me how that idea came about to turn that into an animation, especially since it's it as Jamaicans we can truly say oh, when people will tell you that your breath actually smells, how that can make people feel. So share with us how that idea came about to turn into an animation.
Well, so actually, it's based on, a true story. One of my, uh, somebody that I know, you know, you know, and I'm trying to, use my words, choose my words carefully. So somebody that I know, always coming around me and is like, it wasn't the best time speaking with them. And, it was just, I didn't know how to tell the person how, their breath was smelling right. So that was the idea. It was for an assignment, and it was for an assignment. And, I wanted to choose the most relatable topic to the wider congregation and to me that I related to. So that's how I decided to go with Death by Breath. Yeah.
So just to add a little humor, did the person who you were basically depicting in this animation know that this animation was
Up
kind of
to
had
this
an
day.
idea that I
So
wonder if it's
up to this day, the person haven't, realized that it was them I'm trying to send a message to, but I'm not, they haven't found out yet.
so share with me. You had Jojo says wow right after a whole animation and they still don't get it. So share with me. What about your team, right? Those who were able to be a part of this creation and making it possible for what it is now. Share with us
Well,
who were a part of that.
so for the most part at the beginning, like for the whole assignment, it was just me. I did the whole thing, the the concept, the storyboard, the writing, the animation, all that. I did it by myself, and it was. I wouldn't lie, it was nice working by myself because sometimes people tend to lag. I'm not saying working with people is not good, but for that specific assignment, I needed to be over with it, and
Yeah.
I needed time to myself because it was a long semester, and I needed that time to finish it and then get some rest. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did it by myself. But afterwards, when I reviewed it with my teacher, he said that, some of the voice acting could need some help. So that's when I asked one of my upperclassmen, Loglo, to help me with what do you call it? The the aggressor. That's the one that's killing the person. So he helped with that voice. And then I guess I could say after that the team was me and Logo.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Now, I just find these animations funny. You said that you wanted to work by yourself, right? What were
Yeah.
some of the challenges? Because I know sometimes we all are scared of group work, but sometimes having solo assignments can be challenging. It's and pressuring at moments. So did you have those times?
I think the challenging was like, should I work with someone? Should I not work with someone? It's like the doubt, like when I'm starting it, I know the doubt of not having someone to check the work after and say, yeah, this needs help. And that's the main part is the mental part because I didn't have anyone to say, yeah, this could need something, but you know,
Yeah.
it's just the mental part of it by going back and forth if I should need somewhere or not. But then I
Yeah.
finally made up my mind and say, just do it by yourself. If another chance comes around, I think I would work with somebody.
Okay. Yeah. Share with us more about your animation, A Fight to Flight. So I just love the rhyme. Like share with us more about that.
So my animation is about a little girl who is suffering from depression due to the loss of her dad. And loss happen in different ways, and how people deal with it is very different. But I
Mhm.
wanted to focus on dance and how it can be therapeutic. So one of the aspects that I wanted to focus on was, depression and stuff. So it was an assignment, and I was the only one working on it. It was just me. I mean, it was a lot, but I throughout the whole process of it, I definitely learned a lot about myself. Because I was underestimating myself a lot. I didn't think I could do it, but I was so connected to the piece. It was just so personal, and I was able to pour out myself into it a little bit, and that's
Yeah.
how we have A Fight to Flight.
Awesome. And I'm actually happy that you touched on that because yesterday for day one, we touched on the importance of actually creating animations that are evergreen in terms of social issues. And so we saw that with Johnny Sad Boy, right? And how even in present day, certain parental ways and how a child would be um dealt with if they did something wrong and their approaches. Loss is something that people deal with on a day-to-day basis, and dealing with that can be heart-wrenching, and it can just actualize itself in so many different ways. Do you see yourself creating other animations similar to that or along the line of social issues?
Yes, I actually do. I do. I feel like that's more of my type of stuff because I want to create awareness. I want, when parents and, kids, they're watching it, they're learning something. They're learning how to handle emotion. They're learning how to handle grief. They're learning how to handle anxiety. And I think that's a good way, to speak to kids because they're always watching stuff. We have these iPad kids nowadays. They're always watching stuff, so it's a way to just put something within that space that we know that they're already there, and to just create that safe space for them where they can learn something and not just be entertained.
That's true. Now, what are some of the technologies that you use to bring your animation to life?
Repeat.
What are some of the technologies that you use to bring your animation to life?
So I use Sketchbook, a little bit of Critter, and I use Premiere Pro and also After Effects. Yeah.
After Effects. No, tell me. I did a little bit of animation and game designing in high school, but to be honest, I'm just always amazed by how you actually get things to be how they are in the animation. Is it that you start with your storyboard first, but then how do you bring that into the software? Could you shed a little bit of light on that?
Sure. So yeah, we start off with the idea, do a little rough sketch of the storyboard, and then kind of, figure out what do you want to happen in this one scene. And for my animation, it was hand drawn, it wasn't rigged. So it was a matter of going into Sketchbook now or Critter and trying to, draw the poses one at a time to make it seem like it's moving, and then we figure out color, and then we figure out background. And there's some things, you don't always have to draw it. You can bring it now, whatever you have, into another software, so whether it is Premiere Pro or After Effects, and it will help you to you know get to the end. So it seemed like a lot of work it is, but you have to start at the storyboard. You have to start somewhere, and then, you have other programs. So you don't have to use one program. Yes, so each program help you to refine it and make it better.
Okay, and how long did it take you to create this animation?
I
Mr. Roberts is saying start with the script. Okay. Yeah, how long did it take you?
I think about 5 months, yeah. It wasn't a lot of time, but I did try to do what I could in the time.
How about you, Nikolai and Shani? How long did it take you to create your animations? You can go first, Nikolai. Are you still here with us, Nikolai?
Yeah.
Shani? Okay.
All right. So, I think it took about a month to do the whole thing. But yeah.
Yeah, and for you, Shani? I wonder if she's hearing us. All right. Hopefully she'll join in. But okay, are there were there any moments where you just felt like giving up because things weren't just working out? Like you said, why did I pick this animation idea? Like I don't even know what the next scene should look like. How do you deal with? I know there's writer's block. Do you have animator's block?
Yeah, definitely. There are days when I get up, because I get up and try to work every day, and there are days I get up and I don't want to do anything at all. I just want to just lie down and exist. But then, I have to think about the fact that I have a deadline to meet, and there are times when I feel like, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't like how it look.
Yeah.
This look off, and I'm like, do I have to start all over again? But I feel like at the end of it, throughout all that chaos, what I did was continue working even though I felt discouraged. And then
Yes.
when I continued to work and I look back at the scene, I'm like, that even though I'm really kind of frustrated, it wasn't that bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was
Awesome.
try to continue to push.
Yes, continue to push. That's so true. Yeah. But for Nikolai though, what do you use as inspiration for when you experience animator's block? Or just any blockage in creating a piece?
All right. So based on the type of animation I would work on, I would watch like type of animated films. I normally watch animated films to help me get more inspiration to see like, so like if I'm getting bored with a certain art style, I would try to, draw that art style that I'm watching at the time and then mix it into my own. So that's how I get over it sometimes.
Okay. All right. And just to have that contrast there for where we are now and where we're coming from. What would both of you, and Shani, if you're able to speak or chime in here, I'd appreciate hearing from you. I'm not sure if you're still having internet issues, but if you can, just join in on this response. So we can start with you, Anika, and then go to Nikolai. What would you say that you're grateful for, especially that began in the past but has now been developed? Okay, she's having internet issues. All right, thank you, Yakini. What would you say that you're grateful for that has been developed from the past? So we know in the past that animations they would have been in black and white, but then they moved on to color. And now we can appreciate, finding out what color schemes you want to have your animation in. What for example, that would be an example. So what would you say that you're grateful for that was from it in the past and has been developed now that can actually help you advance?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So, back then I'm a big Disney fan, always have been, Disney baby. And I like the old and classic Disney stuff. So, I would sit and I would watch, how they would create each frame, how they would draw it, and then, how they would color each little tiny detail, and it would take them forever. But no, I'm so grateful that, we have programs that can help us to work a little bit faster so it's not taking ages. Because sometimes, you don't have a lot of time to work with. You don't have like 2 years or a year, like some big production companies to complete, the short, little film that we have. So the programs definitely help. So we can help with the rigging. We don't have to draw every single thing, like motion graphics and special effects. We don't have to draw everything line for line and, color everything as we go. We have something to do that for us.
Yeah, that Nikolai.
You know that she said everything that I was going to say, but I'll just add something else that I'm grateful for the education system that we have, because I originally didn't want to be an animator. I just wanted to be an illustrator. But,
Mm.
you know, by learning from the lectures and everything, and getting the information, I'm just grateful for the education system.
Awesome. So now, as it relates to where you see yourself from this animation going forward, what can we expect? Is there anything cooking in the background after this animation? Will you be entering the TAVIA award or seeking to enter it next year? What's next?
So I'm planning on, kind of launching out a little bit more, focusing on different aspects. As I say, I kind of want to use dance movement therapy as my foundation. So like how I look at, grief and depression, maybe next time I'll look at something like anxiety or, just continuing, just like a little series, so I can continue to educate.
All right.
Yeah.
How about you, Nikolai?
Could you repeat the question?
What's next for you? After
Okay,
this anime, will you be entering the TAVIA awards next year? What's next?
so what's next for me? So currently I'm working on my comic, Viral Impact. So I would like to animate that, you know, hopefully in next year to enter it into a competition or something. So that's what I'm working on, animating my comic.
Okay. Now, my final question to you two would be, what other opportunities would you like to see offered in the space to better your craft, to improve yourselves? Like, what other opportunities? Like, there are opportunities here, but what other ones would you like to see in the space?
So I'm from Edna, and what I would really like, is a little bit more collaboration, probably with other schools or with other organizations to create together, because it's hard to identify the animators in Jamaica, and you always hear that, probably you will do animation or you take the animation, but we never yet, how is it that we never yet, collaborate with each other, had like a conference, with each other or something, get to know each other, build connections. So by the time, we're ready to come out and ready to do a project, we can call up with two friends them around there. So, cause, money have to make and people have to eat, right? So yeah, that's what I want to see.
I see Mr. Roberts there saying that you should be a member of JANN. So I hope that you sign up today. I really do. So how about you, Nikolai?
I didn't have an answer for this question, but um, me personally, I would say in the academic field, I would like to see more of the upperclassmen helping the first year students, because when they come to school, when they come to, the animation course, they're like, what is this and what is that? I know they're blinded by what they have to do and the pressure they're facing. And I'm doing a first year course right now, so I get to have that hands-on, time with them. So I'm seeing their struggle, and I really would wish that the upperclassmen would more go around to them and make them feel comfortable and help them with their academics. So yeah.
All right, fair enough. Thank you so much, Anika and Nikolai, and of course, Shani, just to have it on record. We really do appreciate you taking the time to share with us in this panel about where we are now. I do believe I speak on behalf of Jan and everyone here that we wish you all the best in your endeavors and whatever you choose to take on next in the field of animation or in anything else. Keep up the great work. And I hope that you stick around to hear more about the business of animation in panel 2. Right, so at this moment, we're gonna just allow you to visit your refrigerators and get some refreshments. If you need to use the restroom, this will be the time as we break for intermission.
Before that though, maybe we can ask if anyone has any questions for the panel.
Oh, sure. Okay, any questions for Anika or Nikolai? I know Shani is still having internet issues.
I have one question. Same
Alright.
question for both persons. How close to the original concept was the final production? So what I saw, how close was that to what you originally had in mind?
Well, for me, I would say probably like a 70%, you know, because I wanted to include a lot more dancing in it. And you know, do a little bit more cleanup. So I would say 70% for me.
All right. I guess I would say like 80% because most of what I had on the script had to be put in it, but I had to cut some scenes because of time. So I would say about 80%.
Okay, Shani, are you hearing us?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you. So, Mr. Roberts asks, how close was your final production? Close to what you had in mind initially?
Hello?
Me, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
All right, so we're at the end, but we have a question, but at the end of panel 1, just to be sure. How close was your final product to what you had initially in mind?
More or less, it went according to the script. So I would say roughly 100%, to be very honest. There were just some technical changes that had to be made, but I didn't cut any scenes or anything like that. So for the most part, it was the same as what was on the script.
Okay, and while you're here, I just want to hear more from you. What were some of the challenges that you faced in your animation?
Well, one challenge that was there was the turnaround time. So when one person finishes one aspect of the work, they have to hand it over to someone else. So the time that it took for that to happen, I wished it was shorter so that we could have more time to fix whatever needed to be fixed and to better meet the deadlines and things like that. So that was one challenge. Also, communication could have been better because I know we're all creatives and we're all busy, but it would have been easier to get things done if persons checked in more often. So there
Understood.
was that as well.
Yes, and similar to how you would have writer's block, did you experience any animator's block?
Well, that is a real thing that happens to me, but I can't really say that that took place while working on this film because I was very excited and passionate about working on this. And I had a lot of ideas that were just bursting through my mind, and I just wanted to get them down on like actual paper and get them in the film itself. So yes.
Yes. And in relation to the topic of this panel, where we are now, what would you say that you are grateful for that, of course, was from the past, but has been developed to know for your use?
Well, in terms of, could you give me a bit of context?
Okay, so like in the past where animations, they were in black and white and then they moved to color. so that we can now be able to appreciate color schemes when creating animation? What would you say that you're grateful for from the past that has developed to something that is beneficial to you? No.
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I chipped out a second ago.
All right. So with, for example, animations being in black and white in the past, and then they moved on to color for us to appreciate color schemes and just seeing more creativity in our animations. What would you say from the past you're grateful for that has developed over time that's beneficial to you now?
Well, what I can say is I'm grateful for how things were done in the past. So like back in the early days, the silent films, they really taught me that you don't necessarily need sound to understand what's going on in an animation. So I'm grateful for that teaching me a lesson so that I don't focus too much on sound and just make sure that my story itself is understandable. People can gather the context of what's going on without having to hear anything. Also, in terms of like color and design and things like that, I really love how Disney, for example, does their thing. And I would be very happy if I was able to do animations in their style, because I really admire how they do it. They're very professional in what they do, and they're just one of the greats. So I'd really love to be able to do things the way they have done it over the years. So
No.
that's a few of the things that I'm thankful for.
Awesome. Any questions for Shani or the other panelists, Anika and Nikolai? No other questions? Going once, going twice. All right. So Mr. Robert said great answers. Thank you. Awesome stuff. So once again, thank you so much, Shani, creator of Doggy Secret, and Nikolai, Death by Breath, and Anika for A Fight to Flight for sharing with me in panel 1 for where we are now. As I stated, all the best in your endeavors. If you're not already a member of JANN, make it your point of duty to sign up today and be a part of the family, right? So we're just gonna take a short intermission and enjoy some videos, and you can also take that journey to your refrigerator to be refreshed. All right. And when we come back, we'll be having panel 2 that's about the business of animation.
Okay, thank you for
Welcome back, everyone. Was your trip to your refrigerator good? I know mine was. Was your trip to your refrigerator good? Let me know in the chat. Let me see some emojis. Are you ready for the panel 2 about the business of animation? I'm not starting until I see some interactions, you know. I wonder if you're still by your fridge. Are you guys still by your fridge? Are you
here.
back?
I'm ready.
You're here, you're ready. Awesome. What about everybody else? Good stuff. Good stuff. Awesome. All right. So for this panel discussion, we'll be hearing from the panelists. Joel McFarlane, that's an animation director at Listen Me Caribbean Limited. We'll also be hearing from Philip Taylor, the CEO of Homes Studio. Now, Philip also applied to the Jamaica Screen Development Initiative, JCI. That's a financing initiative of the government of Jamaica, GOJ, which aims to support and strengthen the local screen-based industries by providing a pool of funds accessible for the completion of eligible screen-based projects across various stages of development. So we'll be hearing more about that from Philip. Also, we'll have on the panel Jonathan Roberts, Principal TAVIA. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please let me know, Mr. Roberts. TAVIA Creations Limited. Are you all here? Can you turn on your camera? If your Wi-Fi connection is poor, we understand that you have to keep it off. But are you all here? Joel McFarlane, Philip Taylor, and Jonathan Roberts. I see Mr. Roberts. I see Sir Philip. How about Joel?
She's
Oh, I
going
see
to
you,
answer to
Jojo.
Joel. Yes.
Jojo. See you, Jojo. Sorry about that, Jojo. I don't want the trauma to come on, you know. So
Thank
Jojo,
you.
it is.
Thank
Yes,
you. Thank
yes.
you.
Alrighty. Now, when we hear about business of animation, we're thinking skills, strategies. How do we get things done in the world of animation? Someone says get them to. All right. Yes. So let's talk about the business of animation. I'm interested in knowing more about this. I'm hoping that Mr. Roberts can start us off.
I was low-key hoping you made me go last, but okay, that's fine. I can get going. All right. So introduction, and to answer your question, just how I can speak on the topic, so to show the relevance. So Cravia, and you did pronounce it correctly. We started out as content creation, so we did graphic design, logos, brochures, social media. And in 2019, we decided that we want to transition to animation. Now, the reason why we wanted to do that is because when you pour hours and hours and hours and days and weeks into an illustration, and then the person don't really want to pay, it never really work out financially. However, because of the production process behind animation, certain things like you don't have as it's a different type of scope creep where you know the artist will or the customer will tell you that they want a particular thing and you go make that thing and come back and they'll be like, that's not it. And you have to keep working to get the money. But with animation, it's kind of like if I've animated a thing, I can't go back and it's a totally different thing at that point. So because it's a more uniformed and distinct process, that's really what I liked about that and why we did it. But in terms of the business of it, now I mentioned earlier that I'm not a creative, or I am creative, but I don't do the fine arts or the drawing part of artwork. But over the years, and this has been something that started, I want to say I took it seriously starting like 2015, 2016, and I've been at it since then, where I've been working with artists and I've been in the capacity of the business manager. So I'm not the one doing the artwork, but I am sending the emails, I am going to the meetings, I am sourcing the goods. So I'm really seeing everything that goes into what it takes to be able to go and do the animation. So for example, you even if you work from your home, you still have to pay rent or mortgage. So that's costs. If you have the computer and it's a personal computer, you still have to pay for it. Equipment costs. The software, you have your licenses fee. Depending on if you're using stock materials, you have the cost around that as well. So while it's nice where you're pursuing your passion, there is a dollar figure that's associated to keep your doors open. And it's very important that artists be aware of what that dollar figure is. Now, I can look at things like this because my background is engineering, so I'm very detail oriented like that. So seeing me making the transition to animation and seeing where there were gaps, I realized that we weren't short of persons to do the artwork, but we were short of persons who needed to do the project planning and the time management and the scheduling. And that's where the basis of my work has been. And over the years, I've shared budgets, timelines, different things are the different tools that you would be using. But when you talk about the business of something, now, if you're in business, the purpose to go in business is to create a profit. Meaning, at the end of the endeavor, the amount of money that you earn should outweigh how much you spend. Otherwise, it's not profitable. So how do you know you created a profit? You have to have a baseline for how much it actually took you to make this thing. So again, you might be working from home, you might be using your personal computer, but are you paying for cloud storage? Are you paying license fees? Like, what is that dollar amount that really costs you to get everything up and going? And for the works that I've done, I've observed artists, I've made my observations, I made my notes, and I've made the outline as to how it works. And because the industry is not in a space where we really have like big teams like that, a lot of it is still my theories that we need to put into tests and so forth. But I applied those same theories to the restaurant industry, which is not the same, but culinary arts, and the results do show. So you have persons who are taking an idea and translating that idea to the cooked meal, as opposed to persons who are taking an idea and translating the idea to the final animation product. And something that came up a lot in this, since this session, is where persons were talking about traditional animation and how Disney used to do it and how you used to feel different when that work or when you used to see that work. Now it is way more costly to do traditional animation as opposed to doing the way we do it now, because you're looking at when you're drawing frame by frame, and even if you're not using that each and every time, the groundwork that it needs to draw out the characters and draw out the backgrounds and set up the scenes and get everything together is like, if you did have a computer to generate those backgrounds or rig some of those motions for you, it would be a more cost-effective measure. Now, there's a trade-off, because what you gain in ease of work, you lose in like depth and connection with, 1 second, I get in one moment. Sorry about that. Production never stops. But yeah, so what you do gain in cost effectiveness, you lose in connection to your users, because persons don't resonate with the cartoons and things of these days, because it's less lifelike, because it is computer generated. So when you do spend that extra time, which comes with a dollar amount, to do something traditional or to do something from scratch, you have to know the dollars and cents of how it works out. So my big soapbox is, yes, knowing the numbers not going to solve all the problem, because you still have to go and actually do the work, but you still actually need to know like what it looks like, because if you don't know, that's how you accept projects that end up costing you money to do the project. Because as an artist, you don't want to turn down an opportunity. But if you know that the minimum you need to keep your doors open is 150,000 for the month, and somebody's going to give you a project and the project is only going to cost you, or they're going to pay $50,000 and it's going to take the month, you know that's not going to get you to cover all your bills. It's going to cost you to be able to do that project, which is an automatic no. You can't do that. That business don't work like that. So in my perspective, and there's more to it than just the blind how much it costs and how much you sell it for, because there's how you market it, how you get to your audience, the legal that the JIPO lady spoke about, the branding and the merchandising. And a fun fact that I love to point out to everybody, Star Wars has made more money from selling toys than selling movie tickets. So they only keep making movies to be able to sell more merch, because that's where the real money come from for them. Not saying that's the same for everybody, and different revenue models are there, but it's something to look into if you're somebody who's like, okay, then I have this project, but I don't know how I'm going to actually monetize it. There are different things that you can look at to say how you can see the money, but really it's a case where now that you expressed your creativity, you've brought something into the world, you've gone through the chaos, and you've come out on the other side, now you have this product that you now need to get to customers, that you actually need to sell, and you need people to watch, and you need people to, you need to go through that festival circuit where you get it in front of different persons to be able to see it. And for me, the business of animation is all of those things combined. So yes, you have the art, and the art in itself is a whole world, and it's a vast world to itself. But just the business part as well, just the same.
Right. And I just want to backtrack a bit where you mentioned pricing, and even to hear from Jojo and Philip. But let's start with the Jojo. How do you price the work that you do as an animator?
Okay, so first thing,
Mr. Robert, one moment. I reached to Jojo. I'm gonna go to Jojo, then come back to you.
Okay.
Right. So first things first, as Jonathan pointed out, you're talking about how much does it cost you to operate your studio. So you're thinking about, you're factoring in what's the cost of your licensing, what's the cost of keeping your equipment up to date, and thinking also about the time span when it comes to your project. Because again, as I said yesterday, time is money. You have to think about how you're going to allocate your resources. Is the money that the client paying, is it enough to balance out your books at the end of the day? And sometimes it comes down to negotiating with your clients. Pricing, that in my experience, pricing, it can be a back and forth where they have a budget, they have an idea, but the figures don't add up. And in my experience, sometimes it involves talking with the client, coming up with a compromise to be like, okay, this is the budget that you have. This is the minimum that we charge, and we can't give you this Disney-like experience. But here is how Cartoon Network was able to produce a show that has produced outstanding results for a fraction of the cost. And then we have that discourse from there. But pricing, of course, it's always going to, the minimum is how much do you need to keep your company going?
And how far do you compromise? What about that? How far do you compromise?
How far do you compromise? Sometimes the deal falls through. They're not willing to budge and they're not willing to allocate more. And that's just, it's business, it happens. And another form of compromise also comes down to, I'm going back to time. What they might be asking, it might be doable, but it's not realistic. And as a studio, as artists, we try to keep, our team in mind. What is their load like? Is it worth putting them through the extra strain for this amount, for this month? And then trying to factor in what's a good down period for them. How do we manage to give our team time enough to recuperate? At Listen Me, we are big on trying to run from burnout as much as possible.
Yes.
So it's always about how can we make this better for the team? Do we need to call in hands? And if it's something that we can't manage, we just have to pass this one out.
Indeed. Mr. Roberts? You're muted.
Okay, so and Jojo did give a good answer, or Ms. McFarlane did give a good answer a while ago. But overall, and not to be very specific, just a way you can look at it, there's mainly two ways you can go about how you price your work. The first is cost plus. So how much does it cost you plus how much you're trying to make of it? So it goes back to what I was saying. What does it cost you to keep your doors open? So cost plus is that base way that most people do it. About $10 worth of raw materials. It took me $15 in overhead. So, and whatever other fees, everything come up to $30. I want $5 profit, so I can sell it for $35 and I'll be okay. Follow me?
Following.
So that's the first way. The next way is value-based, where depending on the work that persons want to get done, how much is the value that you're going to create for them, or how valuable is it to them to get it done? For example, somebody is an artist and they want an animated lyric video done. Now, imagine this person has a big following and they want something to change the look of their brand. So they was like, okay, I need to be up to the edge, and sorry about that, that's not very hip, but they want to be with the times and they want a lyric video to get there. Now, for them, the value in getting a really good animation to get that video, streaming and possibly to go viral, the value is higher. So they're not really looking at, just what the cost that it's going to cost you. And no customer really cares about how much it costs you. They only care about how much they're going to get it for. But how you can look at it in terms of pricing is, one, you can be like, okay, if I'm going to do this video, and for example, it's a sales video, okay, how much sales are you going to look to generate with the video? Because you might come in with a small budget. I can work my magic and I can get you $100,000 from you using this video. So you come in and you don't really have that big budget, but after that process where I get you the video that's going to get you the result, it might give you something else. But what I would prefer to do is give persons the experts on this and have them go listen to those people. So for anybody, like, start writing. I'm just going to give you some names, and these are the foremost authorities for creatives when it comes to pricing. So first in line is Blair Enns, and he wrote a book called Pricing Creativity, as well as he trains persons who are creatives how to price and sell their work. So that is BLAIRENNS, Blair Enns. Next up is Jonathan Stark. He was a software developer who transitioned from software development to teaching pricing, but he has a little tool on his website that teaches like some different ways you can go about how you can price your work. And finally, I would say Ron Baker, and he has written a number of books, and he gives advice to the persons who are top of the world in terms of business, like Fortune 100 company, as to how they price their work and so forth. So there are other persons like Thomas Nagel, and this is very hard. Like, it's not interesting content. It's very hard to read. So unless you're really about that life, you're not going to really go there. But if you want to find that information on your own, these are places that you go, you watch their videos, you go through their stuff, and you'll be better off at the other side of it.
Indeed. All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Roberts and Jojo. Now over to you, Mr. Taylor. Just share with us about some of the work that you do at home studio and get into how persons can apply for that JSDI that you did.
All right. Thanks for having me, Miss Rajan, and hello to everybody else on the panel. You hearing me just fine?
Yes.
All right, awesome. It's a bit dark. We got a bit cloud cover, so I have my phone light just lighting my right side, so you can actually see a person and not a silhouette. Cool. So who I am, freelancer. I've been specializing in typography, infographics, and motion graphics for about, well, without giving give the start year, from 2012. Trained teacher of math and IT, and a YouTuber with 5,000 subs, over 2 million views. All right. So in general, that is around 12 years worth of work. We have in the home studio over 250 clients with over 600 projects completed. So that's a decent amount. Good. In general, I am also on JANN. So persons who want to know me, that's why I am. Now, in terms of the business to get to the application for the fund, I'm not going to call myself an expert on that. I don't think anybody is, because this is the first iteration of such a thing in Jamaica. And it is also something that a lot of our creators here in this side of the world are very, very new to, the application of a grant for extending your project. But according to what they have on their website, which you can always go there and check and see for yourself, right? There were several stipulations that you needed, right? With the base being a script, a pitch, and financial documentation, as well as some information about your identity. Yeah, so that's your TRN, if you're part of the e-registry that's associated with JAMPRO and those type of things. But that's those lists are pretty much on the site, right? You can read those for yourself. So I'm not sure how much I can provide for the fund in that sense. In terms of being prepared to be accepted, no one has been accepted yet because it's not completed. So we can't tell you if my criteria was right or wrong. What I can tell you is that I went past the verification phase and I'm now in the evaluation phase of that project, which means that the basic stipulations of what's necessary for them to submit was supplied. All right. So I don't think there's anything in the way of wisdom that I could really provide you in terms of preparing yourself outside of that. It would be more along the lines of preparing yourself for your own production, which I think makes more sense as a pursuit to ask for, right? Considering the results of it hasn't come out and we don't know who's won and who's lost. And if you're going into self-production, there are definitely things that you need to think about in that area. Now, I'll continue, but is that the area you want to hear about?
Yes, sure, you can get into that.
We can get into the self-production, right? So I entered in a production called Tuma Tunes, and that is a children's show aimed 3 to 8. That's really around songs. It's a competitor to say a Super Simple Songs, a Sesame Street, and those like. So you know where it's along those lines of, right? And the tinge or the USP or the unique selling point of Tuma Tunes is that it's aimed at the Africans in the Caribbean, Africans in America, and the Africans in Africa. It is something that is based along that edge, right? When I had my child and she was born, right, to 2018, I struggled to find children's content that looked like us, right? That sounds like a familiar problem. And we found that she had to watch more and more video content for longer periods of time because we just didn't have the time to give her, right? We were working parents, busy. You can imagine this for those who maybe are parents on the panel and those who aren't. I think it's easy to picture. And there was no content. I think the only content that we saw at the time was like Akili and Bino and Fino. And if those don't ring a bell, that's fine. You can always look those up and check it. And that content was below par. And in terms of Caribbean content for children animation, it didn't exist. In fact, right now, I think the only thing I was able to find in my searches was Akitree, which is I think that's a puppet. Right now, if there's others, I'm free to do, because animation I've learned from the Caribbean is kind of splotted all over the web, right? You can't find it in one single place. So if some persons have ideas of where it was, then fine, right? But I personally didn't come across any for my child, and that's how Tuma Tunes got to be, right? So the production of it requires that you set your world. It requires that you have an understanding of your songs and scripts. Requires that you understand the requirements for whatever stationery or equipment you need in order to produce the animation. It requires you understand your environment. It requires that you understand the upfront costs to do with anything, right? In the business of animation, these are things that you just have to think about ahead of time more than most other creative industries, right? Ahead of graphic design, illustration, because animation is intensive. It requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of horsepower and computing, and it requires a sturdy environment for that long period of time that you're going to dedicate yourself towards. If you've got a desk and it's too high and your wrist pains you after 5 hours of usage, then you know that's 3 hours out of your regular 8-hour workday that you can't dedicate towards your work. Therefore, the environment matters. And these are things that you have to think about in the grand scheme of things. While you're thinking about your price and your return on investment and those type of things, you have to think about your general performance as well. How much can I put in a day, and how difficult or what things are impeding, or what things could be added to improve your ability to do that. So when I went into JDC, when I went into the application, I wanted to make sure that I had an intro or short. I wanted to make sure that I had some examples of the world and the script. And I wanted to make sure that my general website or output or what it looks like was in a good way, such that it looked impressive. All right, so I don't want to go anywhere beyond that, right? I'm trying to keep it stick to what you asked as question as possible.
All right, thank you for that. Now, I want to get into some real life situations that you've been through. Of course, when sharing, you can use a discretion on how much you share, but just share with us some real life situations of challenges that you had to face, as in this a specific encounter, one or two, or possibly one, if you would like to just give those on here a deeper understanding on how to deal with conflict that may arise in the workplace. I mean, collaboration is there. We sometimes already have the trauma of group work, and those realities are already there in the workplace as well. So just share with us a challenge that you faced, an encounter, and also how you resolve that.
Oh, okay. Well,
So it will go for you and Jojo and Jonathan. We'll
okay
start
then.
with
So
you.
going to a specific encounter, there was a situation with this is a one that we can use for ourselves. There was a situation where there was a hurricane that passed through during a project. And this hurricane had come, as much as the weather department does its best to sort of let you know what's gonna happen. It's usually not too much more than a week in, and all of us can attest who do animation that a week is just a small blip in the world of animation. Right. The first thing I would say in that problem is that the client was of the type that they were hard on deadlines and difficult with excuses. Right. So this is a good example of something that went sour. Yeah. And I think this is a good way to take a look at that. From my point of view, work had been on time up until the point of the hurricane. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't last season. I think it was a season before that. So about 2 years back. And with that situation now, it was more of a case of how do I break it to the client that I'm not going to be able to break this deadline while trying to keep things as cordial and polite and as less destructive as possible. In such a situation, documentation and feedback was the best answer. The evidence of your work and what you do up to a point is essential for any client that you work with. Make sure that you have your recordings of what you do. Make sure you have your conversations backed up. Make sure you have your drafts lined up with the appropriate dates beside them if your computer does not store the dates themselves. All right. Be very careful to make sure that all of your professional steps are as backed up as possible. And if possible, make sure that you show your client on every interaction where you are and what you've done. Right. Because of that, I was able to convince that I should be paid, and I was able to be awarded the pay because of the abounding evidence of the work done prior. So my advice to you is that keep your feedback often. Clients can have a way of, let's see how I can put this, demanding a lot but not doing enough themselves. And what you'll find is that it's easier to blame than it is to take responsibility. And clients have the control seat. They are the ones that should be satisfied, and you will find a lot of abuse in that area. So always keep your stuff up to date. And that is the way that I was able to navigate it. And for animation, this is also the case, right? If you have YouTube content or whatever you use to upload your videos, there's many others, and you have your documentation in place, and you know that you have your agreed upon script or whatever's in your contract. That's another thing, actually. I didn't have this myself, but you should have contract clauses for things like this as well. Right. This is something that you should include in your proposal when you send it. I didn't have it at that time. I tried to be prepared, but I mean, sometimes it's only for the situation to come up that you understand that these things should be happening, right? Forgive yourself, right? You can't know everything, and it's such a large industry with so many different moving components that you're gonna buck up pretty much every project, if you're gonna be honest, a situation that you've never seen before. So be fair to yourself, give yourself the breathing room to to learn, and give yourself the breathing room to understand that you are allowed to learn. You're not, it is not a must that you have to have it right entirely at the first time. Right. Mistakes are normal. You are human.
Indeed.
Good. So you should also add that in your clause. I hope that answered it, right?
It did. Thank you for that. Let's go to Jojo. Let's hear what you have to share for that.
All right. So Philip spoke about it from a client provider relationship. I'm going to take it from a collaboration perspective in terms of the team. I would take away from Philip's last sentence, the key term would be forgive yourself. My key term would be communicate. I've had experiences working with freelancers, some people on the team, where a lot of the production is derailed from a failure to communicate. Especially living in such a remote time, you know, we're probably not all in office. You'd be really surprised how much a message can really go a long way. And in some cases, it will read as ego to your supervisors. As Philip said, if you don't know something, be honest and let your supervisors know. I'd like to think in Jamaica, we are pretty much understanding of each other. We understand that this is a new space, we're still learning. And I'd like to think that we all have the desire to help each other out. What doesn't help is feeling as if you can do everything on your own. You are supposed to do everything on your own. Because in the end, I've seen situations where it breeds frustration on your part and on the parts of your supervisors. And that really breaks up your pipeline. What I would encourage people to do is to have more informal settings where, you know, we sit down and we talk about our gripes of the day.
Yeah.
Because we do that at Listen Me, and it really helps. Because sometimes it's a case of misunderstanding, or somebody can present a new perspective that you're like, I didn't really think about it like that. Because we'll all have clients that will give us a very hard time. I hope in the future we get a lot less of them. But naturally, it's going to breed some kind of resentment as the production goes on. And I think as a team, being able to communicate your frustrations and just helping each other around can make the process feel a lot more doable. And at the end, put out a quality that we're all proud of. So my takeaway, problems in the workplace, breakdown in communication, talk to each other, be honest, and let's get the job done.
Thank you for that, Jojo. And Mr. Roberts.
All right. So so let me take it now from a business of animation standpoint. So I got the opportunity to work with somebody who had entered Kingston, Kevin Danvers, and he had a concept of a thing called Mali. Now, somebody had gone to Kingston, watched Mali, loved the idea, and they wanted to see it on the big screen. So they actually wanted to fund it and everything. So we did the pitch Bible and the synopsis and all the pretty stuff, and we did an animation intro, and we went to the meeting. We had a first meeting where they told us everything that we would need to go through to be able to, you know, actually get that funding to kick the project off. But they walked us through what we should come back with. And when we came back, it was very from the artist standpoint. And in the meeting, they were like, but where's your Gantt chart? That's the timeline of when production will start, what's going to happen when his production is going to end. And we did not get that investment. And it was sad, one, because the person really wanted, because the person had some links to media in Africa. So they were like, oh, we can get this sold. But they were fully ready to commit. And because we were focused at that time on solely the art portion of. They were like, yeah, man, here's the characters, here's the story, here's all of that. But we didn't have the planning and financial side of it down. We lost out. And that really kind of, when I heard the figure that they wanted to, because to fund the show, it was a pretty penny. And when I heard that number, my mind, like Scrooge McDuck, so the dollar signs and everything. Yeah, man, I did me that. But because coming out of that weakness, I saw where, and it really gave me a better respect for what actually goes into coordinating a feature-length animated film. So the work that it takes to actually do and actually schedule and get all of those moving parts together, you're talking about hundreds of people, years of work, like it's a whole thing. But something that happens here is we have a lot of people who they do have their pitch Bible. They do have their concepts, they do have their synopsis, they do have all of these things. But if you're like, okay, so how much money you need? They have no clue. They don't know when the production needs to start, when it's going to, how long it's going to take. And not going to blame the artist for this, because as I mentioned, we can't expect the artist to do all of these. But when somebody is not really coming in for the art part, they're coming in to buy something that they can sell back to make a profit. That's the part that they really care to see. So that is the first part of it, which is, and the takeaway from that is, yes, get the pitch Bibles pretty, get it ready, get it clean, get it to the point where it will grab the eye, but have that like 10-pager or have that follow-up ready for if they are interested. You can be like, okay, then if we have a team of X people, it's going to take us X time and it's going to be Y dollars. It doesn't have to be dead accurate down to the decimal point, but at least show you have an idea in mind as to what it's going to take to get that thing into reality.
Indeed. And as you touch on that, what resources are there for persons to use if an opportunity like that presents themselves? Or it's
Okay. Well, so one is finding persons who have been in the industry, who has done it before, and asking them, because if you've only worked with, you don't know when you just start how long certain things are going to take you. So you can speak to Tanya Batson Savage or Kevin Jackson or Chevanese White or Kenya Mattis, or somebody who's been down the road of bringing a film to reality, and say, okay, then this is a short, it's supposed to be this, I have this amount of characters, I know it's not going to be dead accurate, but can you give me an idea of what it's going to take for me to build it? And then that gives you a starting point of where you need to go to actually get that information.
all right, thank you for that. Now, just to take another spin on the topic of the panel, the business of animation, I want to kind of touch on the foundation. So for those animators who are now in school, right, and they're here with us on the meet, what are some things that you think possibly they'd have it up as, oh, don't need to pay much attention to that now. When I start working, I'll just, it can just be developed then. What's something that you say to them that don't push it under the rug? It is actually important, and without it, then you can't do X, Y, Z. What's something or a misconception that people have about the business of animation, or students we have now that they're saying that they don't have experience that are not really necessary, but it actually is. We can start with you, Jojo.
I'm thinking about it. Could you say what's like what's one thing that you would have to deal with?
Misconception in the world of animation, like the business side.
The power of client relations.
Okay.
I think with it being such a behind the scenes kind of feel, that we get desk and we draw all day, we don't realize just how much sometimes a business can depend on how well you have a relationship with your clients.
Yeah.
In my experience, clients really appreciate you. Some of them, most of them appreciate when you guide them through a process, because they generally do not understand what it takes to develop a piece of animation. All they see at the end of the day is, the pretty drawings. I've had clients who were like, guys, really thank you for walking me through this. And what that kind of does, it builds a reputation that they can go off and tell their people, like, we've had this experience. They're so understanding. They are guiding me through the process. I understand, like when we have check-ins, I understand what is exactly that I'm getting. And just from those kind of recommendations, you can see an uptake in people who are reaching out to you for work. And this is not only applicable to you, to studios, as you as an individual. If this is something you're going to take very seriously, register as a freelancer, get involved with the registry, so you can have some of those government perks, but also think about customer service. In Jamaica, customer service is very poor everywhere we go. So when people have a great experience, and I think if they have a good experience with you, they're going to remember you. And you will find that they're reaching out to you for more work in the future.
That's so true. And you can even, like, word of mouth has power. So there's that too. Philip?
All right. So things that you need to know when you're coming out of school. The state of the industry. When you know where the chips stuck, you know how to act. And that is usually the information that will help you to make the best decisions when you come out of the animation industry, right? Or when you're coming out of school. Animation has many different avenues, far more than people give it credit for, really. I mean, we see our favorite superhero on the screen, and we have our favorite anime, and then in our head that locks, like those are like the two industries, right? And that's where I need to go. But you have visual effects, you have motion graphics, right? You have stop motion in the sense of children's animation, right? You have many different avenues in animation that are quite lucrative and that do well and that you can go down. So the state of the industry is basically these little things that govern the way things work, right? And say you're talking about funding, right? There's always the argument that if I work hard enough and show my best portfolio, then someone will find me and fund me. And that is also something that is has a misconception to that too, right? But that's a tie to the state of the industry. You also need to know that when you look at investor listings and they tell you what are the top 10 best industries to invest in, or what are the top 10 worst, film is usually like third or fourth on the worst one to invest in. Now, if you understand that the industry already knows for investors that film isn't the best place to invest in, and I have a negative vantage point on it, it helps you to temper your mind to know that maybe I shouldn't be looking for investors as a first way to go to make my animation work as I start out. If you understand how to invest your resources based on the state of the industry, then you'll use the time better to get to the place that you want to go. You can say, all right, I don't have a name for myself now. Let's work on my portfolio. I'll say, okay, my portfolio is at a certain stage. It's okay. Let's see what places I can go to network. All right. I found these places. Which ones are the best places for me to go to find where I need to find? The state of the industry is an umbrella term for basically what's going on for animation, right? And apply that in a local context as well, right? Do your best to make sense of the business of animation, where you are and where you want to be and how to get there, right? By looking at all factors that you possibly can, right? Try not to close your mind to the pretty endpoint or end screen that you see in your favorite show, right? Do your best to look at the bios and the YouTube videos that these workers are going through and the difficulties that they're going through during the period of time, and help to inform yourself about the reality. It is the job of a professional to make something difficult look simple. And in the sense of simplicity, for persons coming up, though it's not intentional, that fools them because they have a very rose-eyed picture of the industry, and they'll have the grungy realities, right, that in front of them that they don't know. It doesn't necessarily shorten the path, but it sure does make the path easier to walk when you know where all the potholes are, right? You're not gonna drop into every single one of them as you take your step in, or you're driving your car, whatever analogy you want to use. So try your best to get into the undergrowth, the state of the industry as it is. Learn about the writers' strike and why it happened, right? Learn about the layoffs that are going into America and what's fueling them, right? Learn about the differences of applications of industries in Jamaica, the Caribbean, and outside. Try to widen your perspective on your industry. Don't keep it narrow, right? Your favorite show is good, and it looked good and it seemed to do well, but maybe you check it and you realize that the profits that business made wasn't so great after all, right? So look for the undergrowth. Learn about the state of the industry.
Thank you for that, Philip. And Mr. Roberts? Mr. Roberts, are you here with us or? All right, so while he returns, I just want to get your last words. So Jojo, any advice that you'd like to share with us as we wrap this panel? Anything at all that you'd like to say to inspire or to educate or to motivate?
I don't know if this is going to be inspirational, but failure is sometimes on the table. It is it is an unfortunate truth that we're going to have failures, but keep in mind, for every failure, think about, okay, what's the lesson that I've learned from this? Philip spoke about his failure to properly document his process. And he spoke about being kind with yourself, to just make notes of, say, okay, how can I improve next time around? In the business of animation, as with any other business, you will have setbacks. You will have days where you don't feel like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think this is the right fit. That's a normal emotion.
Yeah.
The passion is there. There is always the time to try again.
True. Amen. Preach, Jojo. Philip?
Last advice I would tell you, as a last advice, if I were to keep it short and simple, I guess I would talk about self-production and seeking production from other persons, right? Make your own content. We don't have enough. Right? We do not have enough. Right? Take your time and produce your own content. Make sure you have your own references. Try to look as good as you possibly can in the eyes of someone who, if they were to find you, so that you're prepared. There's nothing worse than seeing an opportunity come around, like Mr. Roberts has said, and you are not prepared. So, if you, I don't know what I used to say it now. If you fail to prepare, then prepare to fail. Right. And she would say that with a slipper in her hand, chasing after you. So try your best to prepare. We know we can't do it all, as Georgia has emphasized, and we would definitely buck up things and lines in the script that we signed, but we didn't know we signed, and things we didn't know, right, in general. But do your best to look at the wider scope and prepare as best as you can.
Indeed. Thank you, Sir Philip. Now, Mr. Roberts has that you're back with us, so I'll just ask you the two questions. So the question before this one was that if there are any misconceptions that you like to share with those, especially students who are almost graduating from school as animators, that's actually possible in the business of animation. So they're probably shrugging it off and saying, not so important, but it actually is. And then share with us your final words of advice to inspire, educate, or motivate.
First thing, it's okay to stop a project halfway and not finish. So that's not true, because however you behave normally in practice, when a challenge comes, that's how you're going to react to it. And if you make the habit of not finishing things, that is going to spill over in the professional world. So even if it's like a pet project, or even if it's something I support, make it a habit of finishing the things that you start. Because if you broke yourself by the habit but not finish, you're definitely doomed when it comes to the professional world. And the second question, word of advice to sum up everything. No, I have to be very mindful of how I say certain things. So I don't want you to feel like I am beating anybody when I say this, but we have and I say we because I put myself in there as well. Sometimes we have an entitlement where we believe that because we did X, the universe owes us Y. So you're going to be like, I did everything I was supposed to do, and it never worked like how I wanted to work out. And my word of advice is, the world is not fair. It will work. It will rain on your parade. So when the bad times comes, take it just as how you would take the good times, because it not always work out in your favor, even if you do everything what you're supposed to do. That's just the world that we're in. So good times, bad times, just hold your head down and push forward.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts, for those final words. And thank you as well to the other two panelists, Jojo McFarlane and Philip Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us as we spoke about the business of animation. I'm just going to open the floor to any other questions that the participants have. Any questions for Jojo, Sir Philip, or Mr. Roberts? No questions? All
Sorry,
right.
just one.
Okay.
To Mr. Philip. I would like to know, what would you say is your most empowering mindset to have as an animator who is involved in today's industry? What is the most empowering mindset that you can have?
The most empowering mindset. Thank you for the question, Mr. McLeod. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If it's not, then you can correct me afterwards. The most empowering mindset that you can have is the mindset of the conqueror and the overcomer. Animation is, I think, in my opinion, just a quick context, in my opinion, the animation ranks as the second most difficult traditional creative profession out there. The only one that I put above it is game design. And your game design has animation in it as it is already, right? And it's only because that has a coding element to it why I say that puts it above, right? But even animation has coding element. I've done coded animation for work already. So if you're talking about web animation, see, there's another industry you can take a look at. That's a booming one right now. Yeah. That's also an area that you can go into. But you have to conquer every single thing that you come across. Right. Jonathan spoke about the finishing of a project. I'm saying the conquering of any challenge that you face in animation. Claw your way above it if you have to, right? And you will have to claw. When you are on the 70th frame and you know that it's 100 frames left and your time is up, claw to the 100th frame. Conquer it as best as you possibly can. Sleepless nights, I don't know, man. I think I have more sleepless nights than I have regular nights, but you have to conquer it. And in general, that is what Jamaica needs. Jamaica needs persons who look at the animation and says, this animation should be done in Jamaica. I don't see why any other place should have it before us. The flags on our color, the colors on our flag, sorry, are black, green, and gold. We have a habit of wanting first place. And I am no different. And that is the mentality you must have. Go out to win. I see questions in the channel. Should I answer those separate? I want to give other persons other chances.
It says what's your YouTube channel?
What is it? What is it called exactly? I'll find it and post it.
Okay.
I'll
Any
find it
other
and post it. Mhm.
all right. Any other questions? No other questions? Okay, so how did you get your start in graphic design?
Is that for
That's
me?
from, yes, that's for you. That's from Nogomo Johnson.
All right, Mr. Johnson, thank you for the question. My starting
Oh,
graphic,
sorry about it. He said specifically infographics.
oh, specifically infographics. Okay, well, I'm pretty practical minded. I faced my first job was, I'll start with the first job, and because that kind of gets me into it. My first job was with an Inkscape developer, and if anybody knows Inkscape as a program, right, a developer of Inkscape, right, a popular one who still develops. Right, so it was through him that I got my first computer that I ever made, right? And me and this Inkscape developer, I can give you his name. His name is Martin Owens. We call him Doc Mo. And I am one of the old boys of Inkscape. I have over 12 years of experience with it. And we were there basically from the beginning. He gave me my first job to do some wallpaper art for the operating system Ubuntu, which he was also part of the project. You'll find open source projects work together. I did it and we became friends. And from that was my first job. Soon after that, based on the work that I had done on Google Plus, if anybody remembers Google Plus when it was out, that was a long time ago, right? Someone saw me from a medical institution and asked me to do some cardiac arrest algorithms. Now, if that sounds like French to you, that's basically a diagram that doctors use as a flow chart to make a decision based on a certain outcome. So if you see something X happens to the heart, they'll follow that diagram and they will say, okay, we need to go here, there, and there, right? And this is what they use before tablets and so were around. They use algorithms and stuff like that, and it's still very much entrenched in the doctoring world. Now, this is actually a technical illustration which falls under infographics. At that time, I didn't know it was infographics. And I had to do that for a long period of time. And that was my first touch into freelancing. And that would have been, oh boy, I think that is about 2010. Yeah. And testing my memory here, but about 2010. And with that now, that's my first taste into it. But after he needed to pay me, and I had learned from Martin Owens that PayPal does not pay to Jamaican dollars. So we ended up going into Upwork, which was then called Elance. That time Elance and Upwork and Odesk hasn't joined together. So it was Odesk and Elance, and they had come together to create Upwork. But before then it was Elance. And with Elance, I observed the state of the graphic design industry and found that infographics was a lucrative position, job for graphic design. It made a lot of money and people always wanted it and it was hot. So in that sense, I said, okay, let's take on infographics. And that is how the story started, sir.
So So he has a follow-up that says, which creative industry do you think is the easiest to break into right now?
Which creative industry is the easiest to break into? The
Yes.
easiest. Definitely anything to do with AI generated graphic design or any AI generated work in general is right now the easiest. That is the hottest. Now, I never said that's the way that I like. I never said that's the way that you should go. You said that's the easiest. Good. And the reason that's the easiest is because that's the buzzword that all clients are thinking about right now. Now, it's if I was to say a non-AI based on ethical concerns, because I don't use AI myself, so I totally understand you. If I were to look at that, I would be looking at when I'm thinking about easy, also, I'm thinking about the quickest way for you to earn $1, right? So I would go into mobile interaction, UX, UI, animated mobile design, right? That the animated icons and illustrations for mobile, illustration, those type of things. Like when you go into Discord and you see the whole bag of emojis and stuff like that, right? Boy, I wish I had the names. I had the names of the 2 top programs that are best for it. I can find it and post them again because they're hot right now. But those are doing well. I think After Effects is integrated with that. Upwork also has that high on its list. A great thing you can do for yourself is that you can go into Upwork, which is the biggest freelancing organization on earth, and you can look at the trends, right? Top trending work. And they'll show you what is best to go into based on their findings, right? And you'll find that my information is pretty much in line with theirs, right? And it goes in again, like I said earlier, it's so key, man. Just observe the state of your industry. Don't lock your mind to a particular type of animation, right? The Japanese make their stuff look good, but man, their workers suffer. You understand? And it's not as beautiful under the hood as it seems, right? It looks shiny, but shiny doesn't always mean good, right? So just observe it, use your thing and observe these things. Google Trends is also very good. You can go into Google Trends, you can type in a particular trend and see how it's been trending, how much people are talking about it, how much people are investing time in it. It's a great thing to check for as well, right? Just be informed, because even though I may tell you this now, based on the way the industry moves, it shifts real quick. And you may find that something else is really the top dog right here. But irrespective of what's the top dog, animation ain't going nowhere. It's not, that's only on the increase. It's just that how it may represent itself may be slightly different. Hope that
Yeah.
helped.
Okay. All right, then I'm seeing a question from Gabriel Watts, the panel. So we'll start with you, Jojo. You mentioned burnout. What are your practical steps to preventing or managing burnout?
Well, on the preventing side, it's always to, well, first turn off the computer, get pen and paper and write down all the tasks that I have to do and the deadlines that I have to get them by. I start to think about, okay, what's the progress I want to make? What's the most realistic progress I can make in a week? Then I'll jot down that game plan there. And then I'll start my day, whether it's in the night or in the morning, trying my best to follow those steps that I've outlined for the week. If by some instance I am overwhelmed, I turn off the computer and I go to sleep. And I watch Family Guy. That's literally what I do. Working through burnout has always resulted in even longer burnout for me. So, nice week.
You feel it?
No, that was a church amen.
So you
Church
work
style amen.
through burnout similarly?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man. Burnout is one of your worst enemies as a creative man, especially in business. And I think burnout, anxiety disorder, and there's one more, man. With burnout and anxiety disorder, there's something else, but I can't quite remember it. The burnout, how do I manage it? After so long, you have to know your body and you have to understand your mind. Burnout is always a case of discharging faster than you can recharge. So the comprehension is, how quickly do I discharge? All right. And I'm always of the opinion that people are more like waves than they are straight lines. We alternate in emotion like seasons alternate in a year. Right. People can be in a certain circumstance at a particular point in time, and they see things familiar to something that happened 2 years ago. And because that event was so traumatic or so difficult, that completely lowers your productive ability by a 10-15% for that day. You may not understand why, but these things happen. And so you have to be able to gauge who you are as a person, how prone you are to external influence or affecting your state of mind and your position in your body, how much you've eaten for the day, how much screen time did you have this week, because the mind will always tell you that you have more juice in the tank, right? It will always tell you that you can go another hour, but your body, it clocks every hour you go. And it is very reliable in telling you when you need to stop, right? Because it will just simply shut you down. And burnout is that. Burnout is when your body takes over your mind and your ability and your wills and shuts you down. So your intention is always to know your gauge, right? The best batteries, I always love them, is the Duracell, because the ones that show you the green at the back of it, and they let you know like how much the battery's gone. Yeah. We wish as human beings we had something on our sides that could give us the level of green that we have left, right? But the reality is that you have to know yourself. It takes introspection, it takes time. You have to study yourself to avoid burnout. There's no two ways around it. And if you think you can avoid burnout by schedule, you're wrong. If you think you can by schedule, you're wrong. If you think you can avoid burnout by overcoming all things, even as I mentioned before, you're also wrong. The key is to know when your body is reaching that final 10% and you shut off.
Yes,
Yeah, that
that's
time
true.
you don't let the battery reach that 10%, because one thing we know about batteries is that they take longer to charge if they reach zero.
Yeah,
If the battery is dead, that's the time the battery takes the longest to charge. If you are burnt out, you are out of commission for long, right? And if you do not do your burnout properly, if you do not manage yourself that way properly, it stacks. So if you're burnt out tomorrow and then another week you're burnt out again, yeah, recovery time of the next week is longer than the first one, right? You cannot cheat yourself out of that equation. You have to do the relevant introspection and understand yourself.
true. All right, now the final question. When learning skills, do you value quantity, lots of iterations, or quality, take on larger projects and learn over the course of them? You can start, Jojo.
Just reading the question, quality, lots of iterations, as in doing the same thing over and over again? Or
Quantity,
yeah.
I believe so. Is that so, Johnson? Or could you unmute? Yes, he said yes.
Okay, so in learning skills, do you value quantity or quality? well, for me, anything I'm doing, I'm always putting quality. Like if I did it before, it has to be a better version, if not as good as. In my experience, most of my skills I've learned through a particular need. There might be a project where I can't find anybody to do it, or I hire somebody to do it and I'm not doing it right. And my brain is gonna be like, girl, you can do this yourself. YouTube is there. So I mainly use projects as a good space to learn on somebody else's dime, to learn how to get some new skills. And I find that after those projects, I can open myself up to more work along those lines, and my skills gradually improve with each version that I do.
Philip?
I'm just trying to find the question again so I can read it for myself. Or you can repeat it for me if you want to.
So it's when learning skills, let me just drop it back. When learning skills, do you value quantity, lots of iterations, or quality? Take on larger projects and learn over the course of them.
Okay. I can only talk for myself. I know persons who take longer projects, but shorter projects, iteration is usually what gets me going for that. It could be a case that my head tough. In general, learning it, and there you go, right? It really depends on if that skill that you're trying to learn is close to what you already know, if it's far. If it's close, right, then you can bank on a larger project. If it's far from something you know, I would advise to take it by small bites, right? Eat like the Chinese them, basically, right? Small portions of food at a time. That's what I would advise you go, and I prefer that for myself, right? You need to sort of just forgive the stereotype. I hope it doesn't insult anybody, right? But you just need to take your time, because some concepts seem simple on the surface. Like I said, it's a job of a professional to make something difficult look simple. But when you get into the meat of it, you find out, say, oh, this isn't so much pork steak. This is more like turkey neck, bare bone in there. And you have to stop and buck and go again and stop and go again, right? So try your best not to underestimate the project you're going against. Give it its necessary due. And if it is far...
Oh, Philip broke up there. But I believe that we get the gist of what he's saying. Well, there you have it. I truly hope you all learned a lot. Thank you again, Jojo. And also to Mr. Roberts. I see that he's not on with us right now, but thank you to him nonetheless, and to Mr. Philip. Thank you all. And even to the panel earlier, where we spoke about where we are now with Shanae Herman, Nicola Gowdy, and Anika Harnsmith. Thank you so much for joining us. I just want to also do a plug for JANN, where we're asking you to give us your feedback on the animation weekend. I hope it was did you guys enjoy the animation weekend? Can you spam the
I
chat?
did.
Say I enjoy. Hey, like, let me see some emojis. Let me see some spamming in the chat. Say if you enjoy the animation weekend. Yeah, so ensure that you fill out the survey. That's the form. Mrs. Shivers White dropped the link in the chat, so you should check that out. Also, you may add your work to the JANN Animated Film Showcase. The showcase will be on display where JANN goes, including local and international spaces. Remember that we said we're getting ourselves out there. We're not staying as introverts. We're gonna be extroverts, right? So add your work and get your name out there using JANN Jamaican Animated Film Showcase, right? So check out the chat. Also to note, JANN is seeking new members of the executive body. So lobby to become a member of the JANN executive and help them to promote and elevate the Jamaican animation industry. To become a member of JANN, find out which plan applies to you. Actually, link in the chat right there. and then register to become a member. And so that will be at animationjamaica.com/register. Alrighty, so it was a pleasure being your host for this 2-day event, right? I absolutely fell in love with Jan and just the work that you produce. Yes, Shani?
Yes. So I registered for JANN, right? And I just want to know, well, I don't remember the process, but how do we go about participating in events? Because I want to get my 15 points up for the year.
Oh, Mrs. Shabazwai will answer you.
Why? Why me? It's not me alone in here for representing JANN. But it's fine, it's fine. So we've had some challenges. If you stay connected with our social spaces, so we have a WhatsApp group, we have our Instagram. I know some of you young people don't know what Facebook is, but we have a Facebook group. So we have different spaces. We also have a Twitter channel, and we've been posting the different activities that are available for JANN. So attending these events will up your points, participating in the challenges. So we had a challenge 2 months ago, and all of those activities will be able to build up your points. Shanae, you've been doing well, so you're not for worry. You're one of them A+ pick me, don't it? Where wanna know someone already get A, but you want to make sure so you get the cherry on top, so you want the plus too. Don't worry yourself, Shani. You're doing fantastic. Jojo was one of those students as well, right? Jojo? Hmm?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, man. See, I have Gabby. Gabby just validated my statement. She said exactly, right?
No. I don't think that's why she said it. I don't think that's why she said it.
Yeah, man. Whatever. So yes, don't worry yourself, Shani. You're on point with your point, so you're good to go.
That is a relief. Thank you.
You're welcome, sweetie.
Well, here you have it, everybody. Please stay in touch, join JANN. And again, it was a pleasure being your host. And I truly hope that you're walking away with valuable nuggets, that you're not leaving this weekend and going into Monday the same way that you entered the weekend. All right? So, yes, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Please be safe. Enjoy the rest of the day and the week that's ahead.
Don't forget, we're in the networking portion. So if you want to stay behind in the session, you can always exchange contact information or socials with persons so that you can take the conversation outside of the JANN sessions as well. Because JANN is about networking. We want you guys to connect with each other. And just as what was said earlier today, Nikolai was asking, how do you meet other, persons in the industry? Use events like this to meet other persons, connect with them, reach out. So you can private chat with somebody and say, hey, I like what you said, blah, blah, blah. What's your social media link? Can I chat with you further? Can I direct message you on your socials? Or do you have an email address that I can send you an email and we can continue the conversation outside of this session? All right. So we invite you to network with one another, and that will be up until 4 o'clock or until you've exited the session. Bye.